Hey guys, this is Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. Today's talk's going to be on the importance of protein. So, what is protein? Protein is nothing more. Imagine protein is like a pearl necklace, and each individual pearl is like an amino acid. Right? There's essentially about eight or so essential amino acids, meaning these are amino acids that we cannot make as human beings. We have to take in through food. Really important kind of to note is there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate, but there are such things as essential fatty acids and amino acids, meaning our body cannot make them. So these are really important nutrients. They tend to not be as inflammatory. They tend to not drive insulin resistance. Again, there's always exceptions where you can increase glucose from protein. It's a process called gluconeogenesis, but it typically involves a stress response to do it. If you're getting enough protein in, the odds are that your body is not going to take and run gluconeogenesis and shred up your muscles. But if you're not getting enough protein, doing lower calorie stuff, then your body will start to shred up your protein in your muscles to make glucose for fuel. So the first thing is get enough protein. How much is that? Typically, on the lower side, kind of where you want to be weight wise, should be about half a gram per pound of body weight. So if you're 110-pound female, I'd say like 55 grams of protein. If you're a 200-pound guy, at least 100 grams of protein. And again, this is going to be dependent upon stress levels, how physically active you are as well. If you're very physically active, you're doing lots of lifting, that means you're breaking down that muscle, right? And protein is the primary building block of that muscle, right? It's also going to have some glycogen and water in that muscle as well to give it more size too. But in general, once you break down that muscle, you're going to flood it with more amino acids. We need insulin to get those amino acids into the muscle, and it kind of helps repair and have good, healthy anabolic metabolism. All right? Anabolic metabolism is when you build your body back up. Catabolics when you break down. So when you're actually exercising, it's actually very catabolic in the moment, hence why you're sore the next day. And you may not quite be as strong the next day after a good lift. So then we want to shift our hormones into an anabolic metabolism. We're going to get extra amino acids in there to provide building blocks. So at least half a gram per pound of body weight is pretty good. And again, if you're trying to gain weight, we may even want to have more. So if you're 200 pounds and your goal is to get to 230, then you may even want to go up to a gram per pound of body weight. And you may even want to say, okay, well, if my goal weight's 250 and I'm 200, then I should be having 250 grams of protein. You should kind of look at your goal weight as kind of where you should aim your protein at. Protein is also really important because it's the building block of a lot of your neurotransmitters. Beta endorphin, right? This is like your natural antidepressant, anti-pain compound, right? This is made from 19 different amino acids. So it's really important we get enough protein in to make our beta endorphin. A lot of people that are doing opiates and these kind of things, they typically don't have enough of their own natural beta endorphin on board. Therefore, they're craving external beta endorphin or kind of opiate-like mechanisms. Also, dopamine, serotonin, right? Melatonin, adrenaline, our stress hormones, we need amino acids to make them. So tyrosine is going to be the primary, tyrosine phenylalanine is going to be the primary amino acid when it comes to adrenaline and dopamine. L-tryptophan will be the primary amino acid for serotonin. And then, of course, melatonin is going to be made from serotonin. So melatonin and serotonin are kind of two birds cut from the same one there. And really important because if we don't have adequate protein, it's going to be hard for us to feel good. It's going to be hard for us to deal with stress. It's going to be hard for us to focus. It's also going to be hard for us to sleep. And why is that important? Because if we're not sleeping, sleeping is the primary mechanism in which we tap in to anabolic metabolism, meaning we're healing, we're recovering, we're building back up. When we sleep, we peak growth hormone between 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's where we really work on healing the physical structures of our body. And then from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is where we have a lot of our brain chemical turnover, where we recycle a lot of our healthy brain chemicals so we can feel good and focus and feel rested, at least mentally. So really important that we have all these aspects dialed in. And protein is going to help us sleep. It's going to help us focus. It's going to help us feel good. It's going to help us recover. And also, really important, it's essential, right? It's not something that you're going to be able to do on your own. This is where I see a lot of vegans and vegetarians, they get into trouble. Now, there's ways as a vegetarian, if you're doing fish or egg yolks or some seafood kind of things, that you can kind of fill in the gaps. If you're not doing that, you're going to need to be really dialed in with a good pea protein or a good rice protein or hemp protein to fill in the gaps. The problem with a lot of vegetarian protein sources, if you're not going on the powder side, is you get a lot of carbohydrate. There's typically a lot of anti-nutrients and lectins and phytates and mineral blockers. And if you're going like for soy or tofu, obviously you have a lot of the phytoestrogenic compounds. As a guy, that's not good. As a woman, that typically throws you more into estrogen dominance. Women tend to be more estrogen dominant these days just because of estrogen in our water, estrogen in our plastic, estrogen in our pesticides, our food. The hormones tend to be more estrogen based that are given to animals and livestock to fatten them up. So we tend to be more of an estrogen dominant society anyway. So really important. We're choosing good protein sources. The vegetarian side, you tend to get a lot of carbohydrate with those sources. So if you're more on the insulin resistant side, that can really throw you back. You also have to tend to really combine a lot of those proteins better because the proteins on the vegetarian side tend to be very incomplete. They don't have all of the essential fatty acids. Methionine and lysine is commonly missing from them as well. And then also we may even see issues with low iron as well, because iron is going to be primarily, it's primarily going to come from your heme animal-based iron. And then also B12 is also necessary. Even the best vegan or vegetarian will miss those. And we need that for healthy nervous system, healthy red blood cells, to carry oxygen, to engage in aerobic metabolism, which is really important for your mitochondria as well. All right, cool. So did a nice little live Q&A here. We're going to dive over to some questions, see where you're at. And if you're liking this, give me some thumbs up. Put in the comments what you're liking. Shoot me over some questions. I'd like to keep this conversation rolling. All right, let's see what is up on the question side here. Okay, cool. Could you talk about carcinogenic proteins? Well, I mean, regarding carcinogenic proteins, there's not really such thing as a carcinogenic protein. I mean, if you look at the China study, they talked about protein increasing cancer, but they kind of used casein. They isolated casein and they injected it into rats. Number one, you never get casein by itself. If you're consuming a dairy protein, which is what casein is, you're getting whey protein, which is also anti-cancer. You're also getting other fats with that as well. And you're typically not going to take it via an injected mechanism. You're going to be eating it, which is different. And you're also not going to be extrapolating data on rats to humans. Not a good thing to do. But yeah, you can definitely overcook proteins and burn them. And that charring can create heterocyclic amines and polyaromatic hydrocarbons, which can be carcinogenic. But just don't cook the crap out of your food. Do I sell the flu? No, I'm doing great. Hey, Matt White, how we doing? Would it be all right for me to use HCl to break down protein? Because every time I eat, it's like my food just sits there in my stomach and it rumbles. Yes, I mean, this is the big thing. When I talk about protein in this whole lecture here, there's an assumption, and I kind of didn't really dive in deep. This is why we have the live part, is that when you eat that protein that you're going to break it down, absorb it, and assimilate it. No, not necessarily. That's why we need, because protein is a very expensive resource, meaning it takes a good amount of energy. The thermic effect on your body with protein digestion is about 50%. In other words, it's like a 50% transaction fee on the protein you consume because it's a lot of energy from your body. It's needed to break it down. So if we don't have enough hydrochloric acid and enzymes, we're not going to be able to fully extract it. And it could even potentially be a stressor because it's sitting, it's kind of putrefying, it's rotting in your gut. So HCl is really important. IGF-1 is kind of this growth-like factor that goes to the growth hormone and can increase HGH as an effect of it. Insulin can also drive it up as well. That's kind of the whole thing with cancer. My opinion, don't worry about IGF-1 from animal products unless you're getting the external growth hormone that was given to the animals, which isn't good. We don't want that because obviously they're a lot bigger than us, so their growth hormones are going to have a negative effect on things growing in a too speedily way, if you will. Too fast way. And I would just say insulin's going to be the bigger thing I'm worried about there. Can protein cause gout crystals if I take an excessive amount? I'm not worried about, in my opinion, I'm not worried about protein causing gout. It's going to be typically more richer foods. It's typically going to be a lot more carbohydrate and sugar and alcohol that will drive that. It is true that uric acid is kind of a protein-like byproduct, but uric acid also goes up with fructose and sugar. And I think if you look at Dr. Johnson out of University of Colorado, the more sugar you have, the more it kind of disables your ability to clear uric acid. So if you're just eating protein, but your carbs are in check based on your metabolic activity and you're doing more vegetables and such, you should have the ability to clear out that uric acid. It's when the carbs come up too high that you're going to lose that ability to flush it out. In the past, you mentioned about not combining fats and carbs solely. How about if protein was recently eaten, for example, berries with coconut oil as a dessert, say within 30 minutes? That's fine. I don't have a problem with you combining fats and carbs. It's you're going to get more into trouble when you're doing fats and lots of refined sugar along with it. That's where you'll get into trouble. If you're doing like fats and sweet potato or fats and berries, that's okay. It's more like fats and a lot of the junky refined carbohydrates, especially if it's frequently, right? Because then you get a lot of insulin in an environment where there's a lot of fat, and insulin's the storage hormone. So you're more likely to get some of that fat tucked away into the storage side. When insulin's really high, it really shuts down your body's ability to utilize glucose for fuel. That's the problem. It shuts that ability down. So then what happens is you tend to start storing, or I should say this, if you take in a lot of insulin, it shuts down your ability to burn fat for fuel. So if you take in a lot of insulin, right, a lot of carbohydrates, that dries up a lot of insulin, your body's preferential fuel source is going to be carbohydrate. So if you have all this fat coming in and this insulin's really high, your body is saying, oh, let's tuck that fat away. Insulin's high. Let's preferentially burn glucose and sugar and all the carbs for fuel. So then that fat tends to get tucked away easier. That's part of the reason why we want to tell our cells, nope, be fat burners. What's the difference between sulfur amino acids, essential amino acids, and BCAAs? What amino acids are in true collagen? So collagenic amino acids, they're not going to be 100% complete. You're going to see they're lower in like some of the brain ones like 5-HTP and tyrosine, but they're higher in like proline, hydroxyproline. They're also very high in glycine and glutamine. And it's more connective tissue-based amino acids. And the animal meat will be more higher in like methionine and cysteine and these kind of more sulfur-rich amino acids. Branched chain amino acids are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Leucine, isoleucine, and valine. I may have that backwards. It may be isoleucine, valine. Let me just double check that real quick. It's 3 amino acids. CAAs. I know I'm really close on that one. Yeah, so leucine, isoleucine, and valine. I was correct. Leucine, isoleucine, and valine. These amino acids are unique because they have an effect on improving growth hormone, and they also can go right to the muscle for fuel. A lot of the amino acids, they tend to have to go to the liver first. They get converted via gluconeogenesis to glucose, and then they get burnt up. With these amino acids, they have an improving effect on growth hormone, and they can get utilized by the muscle for fuel right away. That's one of the bigger differences there. Great question, though, James. Ahmet writes in, is obsessive compulsive disorder related to essential amino acids? It can. If serotonin and dopamine's off, that can definitely happen. Daniel writes in, where are we at here? My uncle's kidney function is down to 14%. Any tips regarding diet? Yeah, so when your kidney function's already low, you really got to be careful with protein and extra minerals. So I would move to a more ketogenic type of template, very high fat. High fat is going to be very neutral on the kidneys. And then I would get to the root cause of why that kidney function's down. Typically, it's high blood sugar, insulin resistance, and diabetes is why the kidney function is down to begin with. Ryan writes in, my clients that I've sent you your way have seen amazing turnarounds in their health. Thanks a lot, Ryan. Appreciate it, man. Neem writes in, struggling with anemia and digestion, what tests are in order should I get to overview my nutritional health? So we definitely want to get a gut test because there could be some issues going on with the gut. Again, your diet may just be really bad as well. It's hard to say, I don't have a lot of info, but definitely a gut test. And then I want to look at, a full blood panel just to see how good or bad certain things are, because anemia could be B12, iron, both, right? All of that. Akbar writes in, ever since starting the next round of killing herbs with Para 1 Silver, my previous healing from GI Clear 1 has regressed 50%. Yep, we need a consult, Akbar. Get on my schedule so we can chat, man. Didi writes in, my free T3 is in the upper part of the range without taking T3, but I feel so much better when I take T3 in regards to energy, brain fog, mood, and gastroparesis. Well, if your T3 is already in the top 25% of the range, I would look deeper at your your adrenals, your female hormones, if you are a female. And also I would look at your gut function as well, because the gut's going to have a major impact on your thyroid, potentially even functioning better. Daniel writes in, been loving your videos, Dr. J. I've severe leaky gut and epilepsy popped up after psoriasis. Can healing leaky gut reduce brain inflammation? Yeah, Great question, Daniel. Glad you're enjoying everything. But when we have leaky gut, we're activating our immune cells. That sucks up energy. Inflammatory compounds can get through our gut and make its way to the brain and activate our immune system in our brain called our microglial cells. They get through our astrocytes, which make up the blood-brain barrier, and that can create more inflammation and foggy thinking and mood issues. So totally. And with the leaky gut stuff and the psoriasis, we know there's autoimmunity already there. Matt White writes in general, do you avoid eating meat, more well-done pieces, say ground beef in the oven? I usually discard those parts. In general, I just try not to char the crap out of my meat. I'll try to, when I cook my meat, I'll do a very high temperature, 500 degrees, 3 to 4 minutes on each side, flip, flip, flip. And then I'll pull it off the grill, raise it up, and then let the rest cook if it needs to cook a little bit more to get the center cooked. But I like my meat more medium rare. And if you are going to do, if it's going to be a little bit more charred, no big deal. Just eat a whole bunch of vegetables and a big salad along with that meal. The antioxidants that you'll get in your veggies will counteract any of the extra oxidative stress from the charring. So just make sure you have a big salad with that. Jeff writes in, how would I take serrapeptidase trying to get more enzymes and acids with this infection? There's specific products that will have those enzymes for like systemic enzymes, meaning they're not meant for digestion. They're meant for helping with inflammation and pain. There's a couple of products out there. Wobenzyme is a good one, and Vitalzyme by World Nutrition. Those are good products. If you need some, let me know. Email the office. Alma writes in, 18-year-old started losing patches of hair. What could he be deficient in? It's autoimmunity. That's alopecia areata. That's autoimmune. There's some stress going on. The gut needs to be looked at. Also try keto for epilepsy, but psoriasis flared up. Now on your 5 out of 6. That's good. Yeah, the biggest issue with keto, and if you have autoimmune stuff, is you got to be careful with nuts and you got to be careful with dairy, because those are typically acceptable on an autoimmune. I'm sorry, those are typically accepted on a keto template. So you got to look deeper and almost go keto autoimmune to really dial that in. Been doing carnivore diet for about a month, trying to isolate autoimmune issues, getting ready to introduce more foods one at a time. Any suggestions? Yeah, if you're a patient, I have a diet reintroduction handout that walks people through how to do it. You're basically adding one food every 2 to 3 days, smaller amount on day 1, gradually increase through day 3. And in general, I just typically go with egg yolks before eggs, ghee before butter, 1 nut, 1 seed, 1 nightshade at a time. Make sure enzymes and HCl are dialed in. Dennis writes in, I heard a chiropractor say that any molecule that begins with dextro is toxic. Is that true? Well, dextrose or whatever tends to be more corn-based. So, I mean, because corn tends to be more GMO and have lots of Roundup residue and pesticides and glyphosate, which is the same thing as Roundup, I think that's a pretty good assumption. I wouldn't say it's like a rule, but I think it's a pretty good assumption to make that. Best protein sources, I would say high quality animal products. I think eggs are going to be excellent. Grass-fed meat, any pasture-fed meat is going to be absolutely amazing. Whey protein's great on the protein supplemental side. It's really good sulfur amino acid sources as long as you can tolerate it. I like the connective tissue amino acids because it's really good for hair, skin, and nails. Not quite the same as the whey though, but a little bit different. So I think those would be excellent. And I just think on the performance side, you can do supplemental amino acids. I do those all the time for more performance. I have a product I use called Brain Replete that has a bunch of them in there on the serotonin and dopamine side, and I like them a lot. All right, guys, great chat today. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a share. Give me some comments below. I want to hear your thoughts, and let me know some other topics that you want me to address more and kind of dial in deeper with so we can have a bigger dialogue. All right, hope that is phenomenal. 2 more questions came in before I go. Bacon is good. Others say it's bad. Why? Well, I would say it's can be good as long as the quality of it's good. I think pigs have a history of just being fed absolute crap because they'll just eat anything. So I think if you're doing pasture-fed bacon and it's high quality, then I think that is better. Pigs are also tend to have like worms and such, so you want to make sure you're cooking them adequately and you're choosing higher quality pasture-fed bacon. There's companies like Peterson's that have really good pasture-fed bacon. So just get good quality, and I think you're okay. All right, guys, got to jump on my call here. Hope all is well, and I look forward to checking all with you very soon. Have a great day. Let me know your comments below. Thanks a lot.